Hey, Scott, Machine Gun Dad. Welcome back to another episode of I Have This Gun on the Wall. This is an AR-15. I bet you didn't know that. What's special about this AR-15? Why am I showing you this AR-15 over my 25 other AR-15s? This was my personal patrol rifle. This is the one I carried as a trooper for a decade or so. So let me go. We'll come in close, and then I'll tell you a story. So let's come in close. I moved in close on my patrol rifle. Colt emblem, AR-15A3, serial number, and of course the Colt patents firearm. When I got an upper for this, an A2 upper, I made sure I got one of the Colt civilian AR uppers that actually says Colt 223 on it. Give me a second, I'll flip it over and you can see the other side. On this side, the right side, all the only markings that are restricted law enforcement. And you have to take into account this gun switch configurations during the assault weapons ban. Went from a carbine to a rifle to meet my department's requirements for a 20-inch rifle. Now give me a second, I want to see if I can catch some barrel markings for you. As you can see the markings, you have your Colt, your MP 5.56 NATO 1 and 7. There's no H-bar designation on this gun because it's a government profile. Let's zoom back out. You saw it up close. You saw the AR-15A3 markings. So let me tell you the story. Well, in my department, this is a story about bad leadership and a lack of gun knowledge on my department. So it's a little long. Bear with me. If you're into police stories, you might enjoy it. For years, the troopers pushed for semi-automatic rifles, especially after the North Hollywood shootout. The department wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't do it. And then finally, we were having the National Governors Convention, and the department heads decided we're going to get AR-15s. Well, no, wrong. We're going to try semi-automatic rifles. We're going to have a test. And they did this test apparently near Harrisburg. And they got input from the CERT team, the SWAT team, on what they use, which at the time I believe they used SIG 552 Commandos, select fire weapons. So one of the weapons they tested was the 551 Patrol Rifle, which is a fantastic rifle, a semi-automatic version. It won the test. It was the most favorite of everything everybody tried. Well, here's where the lack of gun knowledge comes in. They've got this big convention coming up in a month or two, maybe 3, maybe 6. And they go to SIG and say, hey, we want to buy, 2,000 of these rifles. And SIG says, there aren't 2,000 of those rifles in the country. We have to get them from Switzerland. They have to be imported because this is pre the 556 being made. And the state police are like, well, we'll go ahead and do it. And then SIG is like, well, that'll take anywhere from a year to 2 years because of import restrictions, and the federal government has to approve it. Nobody thought to think that through before they included the rifle in the testing. So they default to the Colt. So they go to Colt and they say, well, we're going to buy some AR-15s. And Colt says, cool, you should buy the 6520, which is a lightweight 16-inch carbine, or whatever the A2 number was, which I don't know. And the Commissioner of State Police says, no, we don't want to buy anything that requires a law enforcement letter. We want to buy a politically correct gun. So what gun did they buy? They bought the 6601 Match Target C, where they had a pinned compensator with 2 roll pins up here. We got them. I was happy to get them because we weren't allowed to have semis up to that point. Incredibly loud. They really accurate rifles, but incredibly loud. And I'll tell you the story of what happened to those rifles in another video, but at the same time, they said, well, if you get a Colt 6601 or 6601C match target, you will be allowed to qualify with it. Well, at the time, there were no match targets available. The match targets that were out there in the public were pre-ban. This was during the Clinton era, and they had tripled in price, up close to near $2,000. And I'm like, oh, that's stupid. I'm like, I'll just build one, because I already had a Colt carbine. I'll just put an A2 upper on it and put a thick stock on it. I even went so far as to get, as you saw in the markings, I got all Colt parts. I got the Colt semi-automatic bolt carrier, the whole 9 yards. But it doesn't say match target on it, but it has a government profile, so it doesn't even have a heavy match barrel. Nobody in 10 years of qualifying noticed that this wasn't a match target rifle. None of the firearms instructors, nobody even mentioned it. Only one time when I was in training in Harrisburg and I was talking to one of the ballistics guys, he said, what do you carry? I said, you know, I have an old Colt with an AR-15A3 receiver. He says, that's the M4 carbine. I said, well, I'm impressed you know that, but nobody else does, and don't tell anybody. So I carried this rifle for 10 years, longer than 10 years. The state also had a ruling, no lights and no optics. Well, you can see I had a light on it. And I had an ACOG TA1 on it. And nobody argued with me about that either. Of course, I shot 300s with this, perfect score with this every year. And I outshot the SWAT guys every year with this rifle. So how are you going to argue with it? Take that optic off, you'll shoot worse. So that's the story of this. Now, it's just an AR-15, but to me, it's a personal story. And hopefully my boys, when they get older and they get rid of all my guns, they at least keep this one. Let me show you how good it shoots. Hi, we're back out on the range. This time with my patrol rifle. This rifle was probably lonely because it went from being shot once a week to once a decade. It's all covered with dust. And with the sun glare, I can't even use the fine peep sight. I got to use the larger one. But I'm going to take a trip down memory lane. You want to take a trip with me? Let's see how she runs after sitting for a decade. It's funny, when you don't shoot an A2 or an A4 for a long time, you forget about the buttstock twang. I didn't hit them all, hit some of them, but I was shooting pretty fast. I just love the A2 configuration. The only reason I think if you should go to an A4 is if you can afford a ACOG to put on it, otherwise default to an A2. Thanks for coming to see another episode of I've Got This Gun on the Wall. In this case, my old state police patrol rifle. Hit like, subscribe, and all that other bull. And follow me on Rumble, please.